in troubleshooting. So we can go ahead and we can start the presentation, whatever we have presented. So we are not going to replay that session. We are just going to present all the slides what we have. So it's not a replay presentation. So if you guys have any question, you can post it. So we have a panel. It means you are also a panel. If you are aware about any facts, you can give answer to that. So else we have Keshav is there, we have maybe Sumit is here, Akib is there, and we have a couple of other folks. And we will reply your answers, and we can have a Q&A at the end. So please feel free, and you are open to ask anything. So it's not an issue. So we just want to make sure everyone should understand that we are helping to each other. This is the only goal of the user groups. And it's been a long, and I would like to welcome you all again to joining this meeting. So it's been this year we are doing first meetup. So due to some constraints and all the issues, folks are not available and we are not able to have a meeting and all these things. So we can start. So everyone knows data is the main theme for the Splunk. So data onboarding, Splunk is nothing without data. So we are collecting data from different sources. You all have experience collecting from different types. Nowadays, size is a boom. So it's everyone is in the cloud, and we have to get data in from the cloud to Splunk. And we use a lot of methods to onboard the data. So during the data onboarding, there are a few basic concepts we have to take care, on a few parameters, while we are doing any setup or anything. So we have to take care. My event breaking is working fine. Timestamp is proper or not. For example, my device is in India, and your Splunk in UK. So it's a UK mode is going on, and you are doing in India. At that time, you are doing this onboarding and all these kind of things. So, and you are not using proper parameter and all these things. So you are going to see events in the future, or maybe you are going to lose the event. So at that time, the data is not going to make sense, because right now we have that much thing as Splunk. Everyone is using Splunk from the SIM prospect. If I talk about cyber and all these things, so data is very, we need a data in a way that we are not losing anything. So if anything we have lost, so our SOC team having that blind spot. So we have to make sure as an admin or as a Splunk guy, wherever we are doing any onboarding or any kind of things, at that time we have to make sure, okay, data is coming properly, time is proper, event is breaking properly. For example, sometimes we have long payloads and all these things, and data is breaking. It's we are not able to capture whole event or whole payload. At that time also we have a lot of issues. So these type of things we have tried to cover on this session. And let's begin with the session, and let's see what all the parameters we have to look into and what are the very important parameters. So Gauri and me has presented the same topic. This is our slides we have took from the conf, and this is a thing we have done present in the conf. So before I will start that thing, so we have a very nice experience. So if you guys have some, you can say if you want present and if you're interested, so you can try and try that to submit that abstract into next conf23. So it's been very good. So I will. From my experience, we have 3 meetings with consultants, from the Splunk. They will just review your content. They will suggest you, okay, you can remove it, you can delete it. So this is information, we don't need to add it. And there are a lot of things. So it's been a very fun, and it's been somehow it's very good experience. So you can do that. So after that, at the last day, I think we have done almost 10 to 12 time rehearsals for giving the session. So it's me and Gauri used to meet, and we have a half an hour and 1 hour session. So we used to do some kind of rehearsal and all these things. So at the end, we have done that session in a one go. So we don't have any cuts, anything. So it's in a one go, we have just delivered the session. So it was very, it was a very nice experience. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so I'll take a control. So hello all, hope you know me. I'm Gauri Bansode, working as a Splunk PS Cloud Consultant with 5+ years of experience exclusively in Splunk, and I'm glad that you are here with us today. So this is the agenda for today's session. We are going to walk you through some data onboarding quality issues, troubleshooting methods, and best practices. So Why we are talking about the data quality issue? In our early career in the Splunk, we came across a lot of issues while onboarding the data. As Rohit suggested, we were not able to figure out why the events are getting truncated, why the timestamp are showing the futures timestamp. So then we came across a fantastic dashboard in the Splunk, and that dashboard is available inbuilt in the out of box in the Splunk. And when we started using that dashboard, we realized its importance and we started using it frequently. Today we are here to showcase you that, and what values you can expect from this session is where, what, and how. Where are the issues in the data onboarding, what is the root cause, and how to resolve that. So let's get started. So the dashboard that reveals the data quality issue is this data quality dashboard available in the Splunk monitoring console indexing inputs. This dashboard gives the detailed information of the issues present in your system. So let's first have the demo to make yourself comfortable with that. So this is my instance. I'm going to monitoring console, then indexing, inputs, and the data quality. So let's select the time range of last 30 days. The same dashboard is even available in the Splunk cloud also. So if you have a lot of data, you can have the filters on the groups and instances. The very first panel, you can see the event processing issues by source type. Give the list of source type along with the issues. So here you can see a total number of issues, and the next column shows the breakdown of this issue. So you can see line breaking issues here, the timestamp parsing issues here, and aggregation issues here. To understand what the count of this is, you can even click on more information and see the description of every single issue. And since this is on the source type level, if you want to understand which particular source files is responsible for this issue, you can just click on that, and that below panel showcase you the source of the issue. So after seeing at this, you can understand that this particular source file is responsible for the issue. That too, if you see here, total number of issues are this thing, and all of them are in the line breaking. So to understand what is happening with this, so let's click on that to click on the total number of issues. So let the result get populate. Yeah. So here you can see that basically it is a line breaking issue, and it is occurring because of the truncating. So in the truncate, you must have set the default. You must be using the default settings like 10K, and the number of character in that particular lines are going beyond that. So that's why the events are getting truncated. And what happens is, if the events are getting truncated, half of the part of the event will get into one, and the remaining part will be act as another event. So one event, total event, will get break into two and will not make sense to actually you won't be able to create a dashboards out of that. So to have the proper aligning, let's understand what needs to do to fix this issue. Okay, so let's jump to our slides. So we are going to totally cover 3 issues. Let's jump to our very first issue, timestamp issue. So in the screenshot in front of your eyes, you can see that the timestamp from the Splunk is not matching with the time frame from the data source. The date is the same, 16th September. However, the hour minutes are different, and this is due to the time zone difference. So let's understand how Splunk platform determines the time zone. So the algorithm goes in the way that it will first try to get the time zone from the raw event itself. If it gets, well and good. If not, then it will search for the TZ attribute in the props.conf. In the third priority, the forward, it will take a forwarder's time zone, and in last it will take a time zone of the indexer host itself. So in the previous screen, it was in the need of the time zone parameter. And if your timestamp or if your time zone is different, you will have to specify in your props.conf. In the screenshot, you can see that that is the way how you have to specify. There are other parameters also which we will have to include while considering the timestamp. We will see it. But specifically to be precise for the teaser, this is how you will have to use, and you will have to specify the region, which time zone you want to place your, or how according to which time zone the data should consider that. We had to know more details about this. We do have the link. We have similar kind of link in most of our slides, so you can take a look at that also. And another best practices for the timestamp is configure your whole infrastructure to use the NTP, that is Network Time Protocol. Why this is because it will be in sync with your digital clock, and set all of your servers to UTC time zone if possible. Here we are not just considering the timestamp of the Splunk system, but the underlying operating system. If the host system timestamp itself is correct, or the host system time zone is correct, then the offset calculation will be proper. User preference. Why this matters? Okay. So whenever you search anything in the Splunk, the underscore time thing will appear in the human readable format. However, the value of underscore time is actually in the Unix format. So whenever you search anything, the result depends upon your user profile. Let's say your servers are running in US Eastern and you are sitting and searching from India. So it will be a problem to basically map when your data is coming and when it is not coming. You will have to always convert it into your own time zone and then understand, oh, this data is not coming, or we have the data lag from this time to this time. To solve that kind of issue, what you can do is, instead of depending on the system time, here you can go ahead and select your own time zone, so that the troubleshooting will be faster and you will be able to understand what is lagging, and which actually you will be able to make more sense out of your data. Then the other important parameter that you have to consider while constructing your props.conf looks something like this. So 3 parameters are very, very important. And like I'm using a Splunk from last 5 years, but we still see a lot of questions in the this community.splunk.com that the people are not able to, or everyone is facing the issue that the timestamp is going. We are seeing the times in the future format, or the time zone issue is there. And again basically you will see these kind of issues in that dashboard also. So how to resolve them is, you will have to consider this 3 parameter. Time prefix, what comes before your timestamp, you will have to exactly specify the regex. So when your algorithm runs, it will search for that particular regex, and after that whatever the string it will get, it will try to extract that particular string as a timestamp. Then time format, you have to specify the how your timestamp look like. You have to specify the exact pattern, like date, month, year, hour, minute, second. If t is there in between, you have to specify that. And then max timestamp look ahead, how far into your event Splunk has to look for the timestamp, so you have to specify the number. So if you are using a max timestamp look ahead along with the time prefix, instead of counting from the start of the event, it will count starting after your position of your time prefix. So be careful while setting this attribute, and these are very must attribute that you have to specify. Don't rely on any default configuration. Set your own values for this parameter, and then your data will move like anything. Okay, so we have covered our very first issue, timestamp issue, and I'll ask Rohit to continue with the other issues.
Thanks, Gauri. So we have seen about timestamp issue and all these things. So let's talk about a couple of more issues. Like we have line breaking issues. So let's see what we have in our line breaking issues. So in case of line breaking, if you have seen this kind of logs, or if you you have seen this type of issues in Splunk while you are searching and all these things. So it's been like line breaking issue. So in line breaking events, we have multiple combined events, or as I told earlier, we have a payload and that is truncated from the MIT, and we don't have whole data. So it is not going to make any sense for us. So what is indicates, it's like we have some issue with line breaking and all these things. So now point is like how we can resolve that. So we have couple of parameters to look into. We have to take care of few parameters that we are going to talk about. So these are the parameters we have to take care of. One is line underscore breaker, truncate, and max underscore events. So line underscore breaker, by default it takes first capture group. So what we have to do, it's better always we should write our custom regular expression, and based on that we can mention what should be the line breaker and all these things. So it's better rather than using Splunk default one. I know that Splunk default one works somehow very good, but sometimes it will not work also. It's like sometimes that line breaking is not working, not going to work properly. On that case, you have to write a custom regex. But as per our experience, we always suggest you just write your custom regex for the safer sides. In the same way, we have a truncate. The default value of truncate parameter is 10,000. So it's like if you are not mentioning into your props.conf what should be the truncate value of this particular source type, at that time it will automatically pick up the 10,000 as a default value. So in case of heavy payload, let's say we have more than 10,000 characters, it is going to break your event. So then after it is not going to make any sense about that particular events. And most of us know, if we have ingested data into Splunk and it is already indexed, so we can't do about it. It's like it's gone, and that data is not going to make any value for us. So we have to be careful about it. So the best way what you can do whenever you are doing any kind of onboarding and all these things, either you can check with application owner or you can check yourself. Okay, if you have sample events and all these things, you can just check what is the max size you can see and all these things. If you feel the default parameter is not going to work, so you can define a range. Let's say we can say 1000000. So it's like okay, we can go till this range, something like that. So the best practice, like whenever you have a onboarding or anything, so first you have to go through the data, sample data. That is very important and it's a very key point. Similarly, we have a max underscore events. That is the same case. In case of truncate, we are just like a number of characters. But in case of max underscore events, so what is the number of lines we have? So if we have more than 256, it's like this is default value is 256. If we have 256 line in our event, and if I'm not working on that max underscore event parameter, then it is going to break. So it's like let's say I have a heavy payload and all these things that having 300 lines, and I haven't defined that max underscore events and all these things into my source type per definition. At that time also, after 256 lines, so it is going to truncate that particular event. So these are very basic things, but very important things we have to take care of. So again, the same thing. Lot of time I have observed like couple of add-on ships with truncate equal to 0 and max underscore event equal to 0. So I will say please avoid these things if you see that kind of stuff into your add-on also, because the Splunk built add-on, I don't see that kind of issues, but that add-on which is developed by application or any application owners and all these things, so I saw that kind of issues there. So truncate equal to 0 means it's like you are doing indefinite. So whatever the payload and all these things, whatever the size and whatever character we are going to accept. On that case, we are going to have issue, because truncate and max underscore events, like they are kind of parameter which we use to avoid memory leak or indexing performance. Sometimes site slowdown as well. So we have to be very careful and never use a truncate equal to 0 and max event equal to 0. So we have to be very careful about these two things. If we are using these things smartly, then it's going to be, it is going to help a lot. So we just talked about timestamps. Gauri already covered how it makes sense to us. Then we have covered line breaking. So let's see, there is a couple of issues we have also observed, that is event breaking or aggregation issues. So let's see what we have on that. So, if you can see this kind of stuff and, how to resolve it. So, you are in a right place. So let's see how we can do these things. So we have a couple of parameters we have to take care. So this is the table kind of things. There are two statements. One is true and one is false. True is for a single line. False is for mostly we have a multi-line events. On that case, we have to. You can see there is only one difference in both sides. we have should underscore line merge equal to true and should underscore line merge equal to false. In case of multi-line events, we just go with that parameter should underscore line merge equal to false, and line breaker is going to be same in the both cases. Again, you have to go via that custom regex. Default capturing group is fine, but sometimes it is not going to work. It is going to not break your event. It's like, it is not able to recognize what is the ending point of your events or what is the starting point of your events. So it will be good if you are using custom regex. Again, same thing, truncate and max events you can mention here. You can give any range based on your organization, or maybe better if you can do based on a source type as well. So it's up to you. Again, the disclaimer is here: never use truncate equal to 0 and max event equal to 0. So these are the some of the points, some of the things we have to take care during the event breaking and all these things. So these are the parameters we are going to use mostly into props.conf file. Let's see what we have. So as of now, we just talked about all that props.conf and timestamping, all these things. So whenever we are forwarding data from our forwarder to indexer, how it works, and sometimes we it doesn't work properly, or it makes some issue and all these things. So this is in this particular slide, if you can see left hand side, when we are not doing that event underscore break underscore enable, at that time how it looks like, and after doing event underscore breaker underscore how it looks like. So what is that? So in a Splunk, whenever we are sending data from our forwarder to indexer and all these things, at that time data goes into 64 KB chunks. Okay, in case of multiple indexer and all these things, so how it works, like if we are not setting this parameter, so half of event will go to one indexer and half of one part of that data go to some other indexer. At that time we have some issues and all these things. Maybe it's like some slowdown or kind of stuff. So to avoid these things, or to make better performance and all these things, we can use that parameter. But if you want to use that parameter, there is a configuration we have to put into your website, that is event underscore breaker. That is going to define what is the event boundary and all these things. So you can just copy whatever line breaker we have created, line underscore breaker custom regex, you can copy into event breaker. So both are the same thing. It is going to define the boundaries. So like where my events end and where my event starts. So once that configuration is pushed, along with that, you can enable event underscore breaker underscore enable equal true. So that's how it is going to work. Once that is there, so you can see in the right side, when we have enabled the line breaker, when we have enabled the event breaker, you can see whole events going into one indexer as a 64 KB block. It is not truncating in a mid. So that is the benefit of that. So that's how it works. Like when you will search and all these things, at that time, it will not take much time, because that one whole event is going to come from one index instead of multiple. Okay, so that's how it works. So as of now, we have covered four things: time breaker, line breaker, and time breaker, timestamp issues, and line breaker, event breaking. Then we test on that UF part and all these things. So after that, once we have indexed data, so we have a couple of other things. So one of them is like index extraction and KV mode. I know a lot of you have used, a lot of us has used these kind of parameter and all these things, and there is a lot of confusion here about when we have to use index extraction, when we have to use KV mode and all these things. So this is a sample configuration. So whenever you are using index underscore extraction, never use KV underscore mode. So that parameter should be none. And by default, that parameter comes with a none only if you are not using and all these things. So let's say if I talk about myself, so it's like in early days we have what we used to do. I used to use both parameters because I was not aware how it works. So I used to do like index underscore extraction equal to JSON, as well as KV underscore mode equal to JSON. So what is that? It will my event will extract 2 times. So it's like when I will search that event into Splunk, and when you will just check that event, in that event, in the informational corner. Over there, you can see that value is coming 2 times. So that's how it, uh, it accepts 2 times. So to avoid these things, then we tried things different way. But at last, we got to know, okay, we can't utilize both of them at the same time. So if you are using index underscore extraction equal to JSON, then never use kv underscore mode. So sometimes people also suggest I saw in other pages and all these things. So you can use that index underscore extraction equal to JSON at index level, and you can use as that other parameter at search level. That is not going to work. So it's like you are going to see events extraction 2 times. So you have to use that parameter only once. Same way, if you are not using index underscore extraction, you can use kv underscore mode. But we are not going to use those parameters together. So let's see, these are very good parameters. Let's for the JSON formatted data. Along with that, we have some other formatted data we can use. But we have to make sure we are using wisely. Let's say, both have their own, pros and cons. Let's say I have I have a device or I have a place with having very too much logs. I am ingesting 1 TB, 2 TB logs, and data is coming in a JSON formatted. At that time, it's better we are using that index underscore extraction parameter at indexer itself, because all the extraction and all these things will happen before it will be indexed and all these things. But again, we have a lot of data and all these things. It is going to impact our CPU and storage as well. That is the negative side of it. If I talk about the positive side, if you will run that search at the search head, at that time it is going to be almost 3x or 4x faster. So that is the plus point. So again, you have to check what is your case and where it is making sense for you. So you have to use this parameter accordingly. So basically, index underscore extraction parameter we generally use at index time mode. If I talk about kv underscore mode, so it basically does that same thing at search level. So let's say I'm not using index underscore extraction on that particular data in the index level, but I will say, okay, let me do the same thing at searching time. So in a search at also we can put the same configuration, the same source type. So that will work. We are able to extract at search time, but at that case, let's say we have a lot of data and all these things. Search result may be partial. Sometimes it's like I also felt that if I'm using the same thing at search level and I have a lot of data, it's like I have a data set like 1 or 2 TB. So the data is not going to come into Splunk. It's like either it will be partial, or in a mid it will that search will be failed and all these things. So in case of smaller data sets and all these things we can use, it works very handy, so you can use that. But in case of large data set, we will recommend you can use index underscore extraction and all these things. So we have few parameters to look into. KV mode having like by default that value is none. Then we have auto, then auto skip, multi-line, JSON and XML. So if we have XML formatted data also, you can use that KV underscore mode parameter. So use these parameters carefully. So if you are using these parameters carefully, it will be fun, else it is going to ruin your life. So we have to make sure we are using properly. So as of now, we talked much about how we can ingest data, what may be the issue, and how we can do extraction and all these things. So let's understand like how Splunk take care of data while we are doing ingestion and all these things. So there is something called checksum. So whenever we are doing any data onboarding and all these things, how Splunk knows, okay, I have read this data till this point and I don't have to read that data again. So you never seen any duplicate data in Splunk. So there is some parameters, few things we have in Splunk. So let's talk about that. So what is the checksum? So checksum is like whenever data is coming to Splunk, let's say you have a log file like ABC. Okay, in this log file, right now I have 5 events and all these things. Whenever I place the monitoring, okay, I am saying my agent, okay, go into this location and just monitor abc.log. So what is going to do, it is continuously monitor that file and it will check what is the last hash value, what is the last checkpoint value. Okay, what is the last checkpoint value till that time we have monitored. So it will match with that Splunk checkpoint. If it finds, okay, that is the point I already monitored and all these things. Okay, on that case it is not going to ingest anything. If it finds last 256 bytes are changed on that particular file, at that time it is going to use, it is going to ingest the logs. It means like it is just continuously checking your checksums. But sometimes what happens, it is not whenever we are doing that ingestion and all these things, what happens like there's something in a mid and we are not able to capture whatever we have changed in our first 256 bytes and last 256 bytes. At that time we have some kind of probability like, okay, we may be losing some data which is not monitored and all these things. So at that time there are few parameters which comes very handy. So one of them is check underscore method. So in case of check underscore method, we have these values like endpoint underscore MD5, enter underscore MD5 and more time. So what these values does? Again, this parameter also having some limitation. The check underscore method have some limitation. If you can see in the right side, we have source colon, then your source and check underscore method. It is going to work like that only. So it is not going to work with any kind of source type and all these things. So if you have some this kind of format, at the time you can use this parameter. So we have these values. If you are using enter underscore MD5, it performs checksum of first and last 256 bytes. If you are using, if you just want to ingest whole file and all these things, so at that time you can use enter underscore MD5. It performs checksum of the entire file. It will see, okay, what is the checksum, do we have anything missing and all these things, and after that it will just take up the data whatever it is missing. Then we have a mod time. So in case of mod time, how it works like what is the last modification time of that particular file. If it feels there is something changed in the logs or timing of that particular files and all these things, at that time this parameter comes, this value comes into handy. So you can take these things by case, and based on that you can use these particular parameters. Apart from that, we have couple of more parameters. So those are very good, and we can use that. Maybe you are already aware about it. So Gauri is going to talk about those parameters, how we can use it, how to make impacts while you are doing Splunk troubleshooting and you are doing data onboarding. Over to you, Gauri.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you so much for the great explanation. So let's go ahead and talk about the init CRC versus CRC solved. Okay, so you have already understood from Rohit that whenever the Splunk algorithm run, it will first check for the the CRC will get calculated based on the first 256 bytes of data. So what if the files non-duplicate files can have a duplicate beginning CRC if the headers are too long? So in that case, Splunk will only consider first 256 bytes, and it will thought, okay, this file I have already ingested, but the thing is the headers are same. However, the content are different. So in that case, we have to explicitly tell the Splunk that please don't restrict yourself to first 256, go beyond that. So in that case, we have to specify the number. So the parameter that where we have to specify this is the init CRC length. So whatever the number that you are going to set, based on that number, the CRC will get calculated. Okay. So for long headers, the init CRC is the solution. On the other hand, if your use case is to monitor several files getting written at the same place with the long headers, so in that case you have to use a CRC salt. So what happens if we are using what if we don't set the CRC salt? So Splunk will not be able to understand that even though the file names are different, Splunk will not be able to understand that those are different files because the headers are same. So in that case, we have to explicitly set this parameter CRC salt is equal to, and then you have to give the name like this source. So what will happen if you set this thing? So in every single CRC calculation, the whole source path of the file will get added. Like let's say OPT, and then I'm having some other folder like the docs, and inside that I'm having the file name, let's say ABC. So while calculating the CRC, whole that source path OPT, then docs, and then abc.txt will get added to the CRC. So every single file will have the unique CRC. In that way, Splunk will able to understand that okay, every file is different, and we have to ingest everything. Okay, but the thing is, if you are having the rolling files, don't use a CRC salt is equal to 0, because it will reindex the data multiple times. And whenever possible, try to go ahead with the init CRC, because CRC salt parameter jeopardize the entire Splunk algorithm, and you have to be very very precise while writing this. So as and when possible, always try to go ahead with the init CRC. So let's go ahead and talk about the Fishbucket and BT Pro. So as you have already understood that Splunk, basically whenever Splunk read any file, it will first check if the entry is there in the Fishbucket or not. If the entry is not there, it will read the complete file and create the entry. If the entry is already existing in the Fishbucket, it will check if there is something extra got added to that content. If it is got added, it will read that, and the file pointer value will get updated in the Fishbucket. So basically, Fishbucket is the data set which keeps a track of the ingested file, and it will whenever the new file it will read new file, the counter of that particular file will get updated. And Fishbucket keep track of few of the important information. First is the key, which is a fingerprint of first 256 bytes of the data. Then SCRC, which is the hashing of last 256, and SPTR, which is seek pointer, how many character in the file I have read till now. So it will keep track of these important fields. Then BT Pro. If you want to re-ingest something in the Splunk, you will have to use this parameter called as BT Pro. So BT Pro requires stopping of the forwarder or indexer. So if you want to use a BT prop for, or if you want to re-ingest some particularly any particular file, then you have to specify that in your source. If you are not specifying anything, then the complete data will get re-indexed. So be careful if you are using this parameter. Just always use it with the parameter called as file, and you have to be very precise while writing that particular. You have to just give the name of the file that you want to re-ingest, and the command goes like Splunk command BT prop. You have to give the complete path of the Fishbucket till the private DB, and you have to specify in the parameter the name of the file along with the reset. What it will do is it will reset the counter in the Fishbucket to 0. So whenever it will see a new file, it will try to index. But for those files which we have not specified in that, already the counter is set to some other value, so that Splunk will not reindex the other files. It will only reindex the one where the counter is set to 0. Okay. So before reindexing, you should remove the existing garbage data to avoid the duplicate. Then Btool. So let's say now you have understood what all are the good or best practices, best value to put for your data. Then you have to and you have placed everything. But which configurations are getting executed at runtime? To know that, you have to use a command called as Btool. So it will basically, if you run this command, it will showcase all of the configurations which are getting executed for that particular source file or the particular host. Okay, so how you have to use this command is it will run from your Splunk home bin, and the syntax is Splunk Btool. You have to specify the name of the configuration file list, and you can even have the stanza specification. So in the screenshot, you can see that I am using a Splunk Btool props list. Then conf underscore demo underscore st is the name of my source type, and along with that I am using two different parameters. One is the debug. So if you are using a debug, you can see that the whole complete path of that particular configuration will get listed. So you can understand that where that particular configuration is getting reset. So here you can see that this particular source type is set in the search app. That too, inside search app, it is residing in the local directory, and props.conf is the file name. So if you are having the complete definition of your source type in different app files, then you can see that kind of list over here. It's better to keep all of the configurations together for particular source type, but in many scenario I have seen that people are basically whenever the previous developer, he'll keep it at different place and other they are keeping at different place. So if you want to know which configurations are getting applied for this particular source type, this is the best command to use. And then you can even use a grep to particularly search for that particular pattern. So here I'm using a grep with local just to see the configurations at the local. So you can use it according to your requirement or need. So let's go ahead and see the Btool versus show config. So show configs goes good with the CLI and rest. However, the Btool goes good only with the CLI. Show config shows the in-memory configurations and Btool shows the on-disk configuration. So if you have seen any configurations which is shown by the Btool but is not getting applied to your data, meaning you are in the need of the restart. So whenever you will restart, you will be able to see that particular configuration is getting applied on your data. And the example, Splunk show config input. However, for the Btool, it's Splunk Btool input list. Okay, so let's discuss as a conclusion the best practices to be followed during data onboarding. Don't rely on the default props. So because default props are created based on one template, so they have considered some data and based on that they have created that values. But to be more precise, you have to consider your data and you have to update that values according to your need. You have to specify what is the time prefix according to your data. You have to specify what is the value of max timestamp lookup. You have to specify the correct value of the event breaker. So according to your data, only you will be able to tell what is the correct value, no one else, because you have the visibility to your data. And that's why get a big enough sample of data so that whatever the values that you are going to set are correct. So don't restrict yourself to some one file. Get a big sample enough and then set the values. And always if you have created in the first place and going down the line the data is getting changed, you have to update that parameters accordingly. Otherwise the things will not work and you will be able to see the errors in your this data quality dashboard. Okay, then start with the test index and the data previewer page. Lot of new joinees who come to Splunk keep asking like how to create the source type. So the very good place you can use while creating a source type in the Splunk UI. If you go to add data, you will see the second screen as set source type. So whatever the values you set on the your left side, you'll see how the data is acting on the right side. Okay, so that's the best place from where you can create a source type. Then always go with the test index first and then you can move your data to the prod index. Find and fix the index time problems. Rohit has already discussed what happens with the index time field extraction, KV mode, so use according to your need. And then troubleshooting friend, the grade 8. Always use your source type, have the at least the we have already discussed what all are the grade 8 is these things only, the whatever we have specified in the time sample source type like time prefix, max timestamp lookup, time format. So there are graded. If you don't know this, Google it out. But that are the most important parameter that should be in your source type. And then don't try the above methods on the prod. First check the functionality on the dev and then go to prod. Okay, so the references for this are listed as here. And thank you so much for listening to us patiently. And we hope we have added value to your knowledge. And we cannot wait to see your success once you put all of these things into action. I hope you have enjoyed how this data quality dashboard can make your life easier. And yeah, it's worth seeing your data quality dashboard to understand what all are the issues existing in your system. If you fix that, then you will be able to see the performance improvement in your own system. So please go ahead and see that. And if you have any question, feel free to ask it right now, because we are here to increase everyone's knowledge. I'll stop presenting.
Thanks, Gauri.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions or any suggestions or any topics you want to discuss? We have a couple of minutes left with us, so we have 12 odd minutes as per scheduled meeting, so we can discuss. So most of us are already using Splunk. So anyone having any issue, so you can ask. Anyone can give you answers.
Hey Rohit, Gauri, thanks for the presentation. It was really nice, and congratulations for your conf presentation as well. So just on the checksum part, how does the checksum work in a heck inputs? How can we validate? The indexer acknowledgement concept is there, right? So enabling that would be what would be your best practice for a heck? How would you suggest to go through in troubleshooting and all?
Rohit, you want to speak or?
In case of that, if you're talking about indexer acknowledgement, so what we have observed, you can enable it. It's not an issue. So it is going to give you an idea if you have lost anything and all these things. But it is very costly if we talk about from the infra point of view, CPU memory and all these things. So we have tested the same thing I think last year. So after that, we have found that we have subsequent increase into our CPU memory and all these things. So it's very costly. But if I talk about HEC, so basically it's like I feel it's like a push method. So we are just giving tokens and all these things.
Yeah. You're correct. Yeah, I had the same feeling. It is quite of resource utilization. So
I personally used that last year only. So we were just checking. We are just doing some migration and all these things. At that time, we have just used we are losing some data at that time. So we thought, okay, let's enable this parameter. And at that time, spike is too much. So we have disabled that. So let's CPU and all that.
Did it really help you? Did it really help you guys to when we say enabling indexer acknowledgement, right? So if it is said that it helps you to find out events are dropped, then you can use this parameter to identify what are the events dropped. Have you ever I haven't tried it, so I'm still figuring out if supposedly the events are dropped, how can you troubleshoot and find which events are dropped? So is there a way from that indexer acknowledgement to actually trace back what events have been dropped?
That is I haven't used any time. So
okay, sure. No worries. I'm also exploring it. Probably I'll share with the group once.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not an issue. So we are also learning. So I don't know if anyone from this group is aware about anything. So you can also answer.
Yeah, that is something very curious I am about, because a lot of people say that you can trace back the events which were dropped. But how are people doing it is something which I am very curious, to understand.
Yeah, that I also never done.
Sure. No worries. Thanks, guys.
Just to add one thing, what I know is actually Hig should have something like that. But I have seen this in the PubSub. If you know, if you are using with the Google Cloud, then there is a PubSub. In PubSub, we do have a mechanism. If the event don't go to Splunk, there is some other queue where the data keeps get added. The name for that is something like dead queue, and there you will be able to see which events are not reaching to Splunk.
Oh, so you can see on the Google platform. You can see.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool. It's platform specific. Same thing we have in AWS as well. So we have a SQL and all these things. So whenever we are trying to get data into Splunk and there is some issue in that pipeline, at that time data will compile in that queue. And once that pipeline is cleared and all, at that time it works. So yeah.
Okay, sure.
We have a feature platform to platform, but I'm not sure in Splunk how we are dealing. As of now, I haven't done.
Sure.
In the introspection index, you have some parameters which defines how many events you are sent by the heck and all. So you just go through the introspection index, you can able to see your heck name as well as how many events it was received through the heck name. There you can able to.
Okay, thanks. That's in the log folder, right? Where the introspection folder is there.
You just need to write index equal to introspection. And whatever will be the fields come in that, if the heck is enabled in your instance, then you can see the heck names as well as how many number of events received from the heck.
Sure. Thanks, Gopi. I'll give it a shot. Thank you very much.
in case of hack, if you are using I feel there is some limitation also. I'm not sure, like there are some 10,000 or something EPS. So we have an EPS limitation, events per second. So sometimes
not 10,000 events per second. It's about 10,000 bytes of information.
Yeah.
Maximum bytes of information that you can send with one hack, request is 10,000. Beyond that, it will truncate the events.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no way as of now. I think even the limits.conf you may change it, but I'm not sure. I faced the situation in my previous project, but the maximum limit is 10,000 only. We can't able to send more than that.
Yes.
I think you can use the limits.conf for that. I think so.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Gopi. Thanks, Rohit, and thanks, Gauri. Thank you.
Hey, hi, Rohit, hi, Gauri. This is Ashutosh here. First of all, congratulations for the nice presentation, and it was a very good, informative session. I have a doubt. I am just trying to relate it to the CRC salt thing that we discussed today. Maybe it is not relevant, but I have a requirement where I basically want to monitor some log files, but on a scheduled basis. Let's say I want to monitor the log files only during off business hours. Is there a way or a mechanism have you tried or heard which can be applied in that case? Per se, I don't want to continuously monitor or tail the log file. I just want that after 10 p.m. in the night, I want to monitor it till morning 6 and then leave it as it is till next schedule.
I think there is something called as ignore older than. This parameter we can use in inputs. I'm not sure with which mechanism you are indexing this data, but look for that parameter, ignore older than, and if you can fix your cron into that.
Ignore older than will not take the cron, but the thing you can do it by only one way. You need to create a shell script, or if it is in Windows Server, you need to create a PowerShell script so that it whenever you want to monitor that file, your script has to start the Splunk forwarder. Okay, whenever it doesn't want it, you need to stop the universal forwarder. That is the only way possible with the present existing environment of the Splunk.
We finally concluded with that, but the challenge with that kind of a scenario is there were some exceptional cases on which some universal forwarders, it's not only log files, but there were some other inputs also. So if we stop universal forwarder, everything stops. So the other way around we can see is instead of monitoring the actual log file, we replicate the log files into a different directory on a scheduled basis. That is one way. But I just wanted to see ignore older than will not work because it will ignore files. It will completely ignore files older than that particular time. It will not per se stop monitoring those files. So the workaround we did was create a different directory, copy those files on scheduled basis, and then monitor that directory. I just checking if there is a default way of doing it.
Or you can build your own Splunk add-on so that it will pull every 60 seconds or whatever time you require, so that it will fetch the either through a script or something.
Yeah, no, getting script is another problem because on production servers, getting a script running and utilizing the CPU and RAM is another question that customer will put on to us, that why do you want to use those things. So anyways, thanks for the idea.
We don't have any straightforward configuration and all these things as of now.
Yeah.
So we have to do with alternate options like you are doing, or we can have a one server where we can just place the logs and all using a scripting. But we don't have any straightforward way as of now.
I know just 3 minutes left, but can I ask one more off-track question? Like, do you, in your organization, do you guys face something like, where a lot of dev environments or SIT or non-prod environment logs are being ingested into your Splunk production, right? How do you guys deal with it? Like, because the organization which I joined, I joined just a year back, and I have seen that the guys have been pumping all the non-prod data into the Splunk productions. So is this something you guys have ever faced Like, do you guys have a Splunk dev environment as a separate environment maintained by your organizations?
In the place where I work, the previous project, I have seen like even though the environment is same, we do have different indexes for dev, for SIT, or for prod. So according to the index name, the data will go even though we have a same infra. And again, the same thing goes like even the source type will have the name called as dev. So host will have the name called as dev, and even the sources will have the path of the dev environment itself.
Oh, yeah, so you have a clear segregation of the data for the dev, and that's actually the most right way, I guess. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's how, like, it has been set up from ages, so I can't help it. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Even if you have a separate dev environment, there you can, whatever be the forwarders or any inputs that are sending data to your dev environment, restrict that to that IPs only. You have a configuration called accept from, right? So if you you can limit that by using that one also, or you can make sure that whatever be the indexers or the test data will only go to that your dev environment, and then inputs in outputs.conf give you only the dev server names. Then
Yeah, but for the dev environments, do you guys have a separate license, or you have,
no, we don't have a separate license for dev environment. We have a dev environment. We don't have a separate license. We are using the existing Splunk license only. So we have single license master
for the dev thing.
Okay. Yes, we have a single license master where we use the license master for both dev and prod environment.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I want.
That is a good thing. There is no even in my organization, they have 5 to 6 independent Splunk environments. Okay, different teams using their own Splunk environments. The problem here is that they are unnecessarily spending crores of rupees every year. I told them, but they are not listening to that. And so let them use that.
I think you and me are in the same boat, Gopi. Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks all. Thanks for the.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, and stay tuned for the news for our next session. Till then, take care, bye-bye, and have a happy splunking.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.